Corey, would you tell us about your business in 30 seconds?
Sure. So we're based in Green Bay, Wisconsin is our primary market, wholesale mostly. We have a portfolio of rentals, short-term, long-term rentals, mostly Wisconsin, Northeast, but a couple down in Florida currently.
Okay. Must be for fun. You like to go to Florida?
Yeah. We like to spend some time down there in the winter, get out of the cold Wisconsin winters, and snowbird. We're probably the youngest snowbirders down in our area for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe all of Florida. I don't know. But yeah, it's nice to get out of that cold winter weather for a couple months and then get to make a couple bucks while we're down there and hopefully let the properties pay for the fun.
How many deals of wholesaling have you done?
Career-wise, probably 800 to 1,000 maybe, somewhere in that ballpark.
800 to 2,000?
800 to 1,000.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a big milestone.
Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
When did you start the business?
We started in 2016. We actually bought our first rental property at the December 30th of 2016 and did the good old-fashioned burr strategy, my favorite strategy in real estate, and then parlayed that into rentals. And then I realized we started to do some flips. Didn't love the flip game. Found wholesaling, and I was like, this is more my jam.
Why do you like wholesaling over flipping?
I'm not good at managing people, like project managing. I can't even get myself dressed. Like, I'm surprised I'm wearing this today and nobody's told me it looks weird yet.
It looks nice.
Yeah, nobody's told me it looks weird. It's probably not great. Like, the cuffs are off a little bit and stuff, but so to design anything is not my forte. My wife's very good at it, but we have 4 kids and homeschool and everything else, so she's pretty busy.
Got it.
Yeah.
So in 2016, you bought your first rental. When did you do your first wholesale deal?
Literally like 4 days later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How'd you decide to wholesale that one instead of take it down or do the burst strategy?
Yeah, great question. It was, I went to some networking events, some RIA meetings and stuff like that. And I met this lady who was like, she loved like weird properties. And I remember her telling me about that. Like, if you ever get a weird property that you can't figure out what to do with, call me. And somebody had called us off our mailers. It was a 1-bedroom, 1-bath house. And I was looking for rentals. And I was like, I can't make the numbers work on a 1-bed house in our market. But it had like a sloping backyard, right? And there was no basement to it. And I was like, I bet if somebody wanted to put like a little foundation under here, they could make this a 3-bedroom. So I called her up. I said, hey, I got this house. I don't want it, Joe. Do you want to come take a look at it? So she came through with her contractor, and I kind of painted that vision for her. I was like, hey, I think if you do this, you can make it a 3-bedroom, da-da-da. And they ran their numbers, and then she called me, and I'll never forget, I was driving with my wife, and she called me, and she's like, how much do you want for it? I was like, well, I told her like $55,000, and I had it for $5,000.
No way.
She's like, okay, we'll take it. I was like, we just made $5,000. This is amazing. Like, it was the coolest.
You had it for $50,000.
$50,000. Gotcha. And we sold it to her for $5.
Yeah.
Or $55. So we made 5
you
G's
created it out of thin air.
Yeah. I was like, we're just
$5,000.
making money out of nothing. Like, just creating value for somebody and seeing a vision for somebody else and painting that vision for her. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
What do you make now on an average wholesale deal?
Last year 2024, we averaged about 23,000.
Wow.
Start of 2024 was down a little bit. It's always slower up in Wisconsin. January, February is a little tighter, but we're seeing it start to come back up again. So.
And is the making more money, because as you got better, now you can make more money.
Yep.
Did you figure out how to buy deals lower, or did you figure out how to sell deals higher?
Combination of both, yeah.
How do you do both of those things?
Well, number one, we consistently are marketing to find new buyers all the time. Like, we have a guy on our team now that's full-time. His entire job is to just find people who are interested in getting into real estate, get them into our funnel, and get them to start seeing the deals.
Got it.
And then we have another guy who his whole job is to set up coaching calls with people and help them get financing, kind of eliminate a lot of the objections they're going to have to start buying deals, and then get them to start making their first offers, and then get them to start buying properties. And then on the other side, the acquisition side, is just a lot of training. Like, we train 3 or 4 days a week for 30 to 45 minutes at least every day of consistent sales training stuff. So that's been probably the biggest differences. And then marketing helps. I mean, if you've got good leads that are motivated, it's a lot easier to negotiate better spreads than somebody who's not motivated.
Oh yeah,
looking for retail,
Every single one of my deals that I've done, and I've done 19 off-market deals, and they are just so easy.
Yeah.
Because they truly wanted to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't have the honed sales skills that your team does doing that type of volume. And it's really kind of takes the stress off of me to say, well, I'm not probably going to be your best price.
Right.
But if you prefer not having to fix this up, if you want certainty that my offer will go through and you won't be stuck without closing because somebody's lender can't approve this, then I could be your guy. So if you just wanted to let you know that, and that has worked well for me.
Yeah, and that's the best part. Like we always tell our team, you can't mess up a motivated seller. We might not make the biggest spread because if you don't negotiate hard enough or you don't know how to do that, but you should be able to get a contract if you have a motivated seller.
Yeah, they truly need it.
Right.
You're not trying to make the deal, you're trying to find the deal, trying to find the person that really wants that service.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
What are your top, so we just watched a presentation on marketing today. Yeah. And so what are your top marketing channels in your business?
Yeah, so it's TV is number one. PPC and direct mail, probably go back and forth between those two. We still do some SMS. We still do some cold calling, kind of like those ancillary channels they were describing today. But those are the main three. We started radio. We're still a little bit, it's still out there whether or not that's fruitful or not yet. Talking to some of the guys here, some guys are killing it with radio, and it was like instantaneous the minute they turned radio on. For us, we haven't seen that. We're seeing where maybe it's helping more brand awareness and creating somebody who's like got the mailer, then saw the TV, then heard us on the radio and was like, oh, I'm gonna go back, find that mailer and call them, But that's been those are the main three that consistently produce results for us.
Excellent. Yep. I noticed you didn't mention texting or calling. Is there a reason why?
We do a little bit of texting.
Okay.
Yeah. It's there's some gray area with that with the TCPA and all that stuff. Cold calling, we try to get our team to cold call. It's a challenge. They'd rather hit follow-ups or do something else. So we just outsourced some cold calling. We're testing out a third-party company to see how their services work and if they can provide some leads. And again, so far, it hasn't been great, but it's still early and you got to give it a little time.
How do you know to test out a new marketing channel versus spend more money on direct mail, TV, or radio?
Oh, gosh, that's a great question. If I knew that, I'd be.
Well, yeah, but you thought through it and decided. I'm just curious why or how you thought through it.
Yeah, I think, today's presentation that we watched kind of made me rethink some of that. Part of me is like, hey, I think we're saturated with our marketing spend on this certain channel. Let's see, maybe we're like radio. We're not hitting anything in radio. So let's take some of the budget, move it over here and see what happens, or just increase our budget and just try a new marketing channel and see what we get for a response rate and let it run for 6 months and test it out. And if it doesn't work, like we don't get the results, then I'm just dumping it back into the tried and true stuff and see if we continue to keep seeing the incremental increases or, keep that marketing spend, return on ad spend in a similar category, a similar ratio. But
what percentage of your total revenue would you spend on marketing? Do you know?
We spend about $50,000 to $60,000 a month right now. And we closed, I think, 3.2 million last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
So that would be about 15%, 20%?
That sounds about right.
Wait, hold on. Per month.
Yes. Let's say 50,000 times 12, so 600,000.
600,000, yeah.
So what is the math on that, David?
About 20%. I was right.
Yeah,
you were. My gut.
You were. You got to trust those numbers, man.
Yeah. And then, of course, you then pay other expenses like your team, right? On top of that as well.
For sure. Yeah.
Man, did you ever think when you first started wholesaling that it could get to this level where you're about to crest 1,000 deals?
I don't think so. No. I mean,
what were you trying to accomplish when you first started your business?
Man, I was trying to get out of my job. It was my intensity level to get out of my job was like an 8, out of 10. I was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes.
Why did you want to get out so bad?
Number one, I'm not very employable. Like I just am an entrepreneurial spirited guy. So I've always been great at sales. Every company I was in, I'd go to the top of the sales team. Then I kind of get bored and I'm like, okay, like I need to be creating or building something or, figuring out a new problem to solve. And then a lot of times in the sales jobs I was in, it was like, it just becomes like, I could do it on autopilot, And so it wasn't very engaging.
Yeah. You weren't challenged.
I wasn't challenged. Right. And then my kids, I have 4 kids now, but at the time I had 2, and my daughter at the time, I remember she was like 3 and she was getting into like dance and stuff like that. And then they had like these performances at night, and I worked for a great company I worked for, but it was all nights and weekends and holidays. So it was like selling athletic recruiting packages to high school kids who wanted to play college sports. So I had to do my sales calls whenever families were together at home, right? Which meant I couldn't be home
together with
my
your
family,
right?
So I had like the middle of the afternoon basically to hang with my family. and then I'd have to go up to work, and it was like the saddest thing when I'd have to go up there, and my kids are like, "No, Dad, come play," and then or like, "Oh, can you get off of work to come to my performance?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, luckily they were young enough where I feel like I'd made it as a great effort. I'd take off of work and come and see them and stuff, but I was like, I can't foresee me sustaining this as they get 5, 6, 7, and they really want Dad there, or they want me to coach something or be involved in something. So I was like, I got to figure a way out of this as quickly as humanly possible.
Yep.
So that was what prompted that intensity level.
Yes. And then what drove the business to grow so big? Like, what was a mindset that you developed that allowed you to be so successful?
Man, the mindset was really just about scaling and getting more time back. It always comes back to getting time. So I'm always working hard to buy back my time. Is really I think the pattern that I'm seeing here as you're asking me. I'm like, it's good questions because I'm thinking about it. Why did it get that big? And I think that was it. It's like, hey, how do I train somebody else to do what I'm doing so I don't have to do it all the time? And I can travel to Florida and be with my family and not have to be in the day-to-day, doing the sales process, right? Okay, I'm gonna go meet another homeowner. We're gonna go through the same process. I'm gonna get the contract. I'll sell. Not that I don't love that. I still get in there and get dirty, and I still lock up some deals every once in a while just for fun and make sure I'm not too rusty.
Right, but you have somebody that's doing that. Have you encountered any pitfalls through the hiring and growing of your team that guides you now to make better decisions?
100%.
What are some of those?
Well, I think I was too I'm like let's go 100 miles an hour guy. And when we're hiring, one of my mentors told me one time, he said, the old saying, like, slow to hire, quick to fire, right? And I'm like, oh, they seem good. We got a hole. Boom, bring them in. They want to work for us? Great. Let's get them in here. We'll train them. They'll be awesome, right? And that works. Sometimes you get lucky. But if you don't have a hiring process and somebody who takes their time and makes sure somebody's a good fit, or have some kind of test that you're running people through, and some process that you're following, you can get some people in there that aren't maybe the best fit, and then you waste all this time training them and getting them up to speed, and then they're gone, and now you got to start that whole process over again.
It's very expensive, time and money.
Yeah. And then we've had some times too where, like, I've promoted people too quickly and I've given them big titles.
Yeah.
So something I'll never do anymore is give anybody a C-level title, because it changes. It's amazing what happens in their brain. It completely changes their personality.
Hey, a great thing I'd recommend is head of that. It feels great. It's accurate, and it doesn't matter if the business grows and somebody needs to come in above them. You don't need to downgrade their title in order for that person to slot in up there.
I love that idea. That's
worked well.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I like that.
But I was curious though, what's your hiring process look like now that you've actually developed it? It's longer. You go through and make sure they're the right person now, it sounds like.
I take myself out of it now.
Oh, you're not even involved in it?
I'm like I'll be in the final interview if somebody makes it that far. But we've got other people now that are involved in the initial screening phase and taking people through the process. And so they put the application in. Our executive assistant will set up a phone interview with, like, our operations director, and then he'll do a phone interview with them. If they get through that, then I'll usually set up maybe a quick 15-minute phone call with them, just kind of feel them out, give my thoughts on how they're doing. Then we'll if it's local, we'll bring them into the office and have them meet, like, the people they're going to interact with. So if it's a salesperson, they're going to meet with our closer team, or that's one example. And then we have personality tests. So we usually use the DISC. I know a lot of people like the PI or Strengths Finders or whatever. I guess you just got to pick one and go with it. So we'll look at the DISC, and then we'll look at other people in our team who are successful in that role and how do they align. I don't base everything off of the DISC. The other thing that I'm really interested in is core values. Culture is like the number one thing for us. If you don't fit our culture, you're not gonna make it very long in our company. So one of my favorite interview questions is, I actually have them take them through this process. I think I got it from Sharper at one point, maybe. I think I did. Yeah, Sharper came in and did a consultation with us. And they taught us this, and I loved it, because they have us ask them to write down like 5 people that they really look up to or that inspire them. They have to be real people, and they have to have met those people, and they can't be in the room. Okay. So you can't put like Jesus or Michael Jackson, or, you can't put these people down. And then you have them then write down why did they think of those people? Like, what were the attributes of those people that they really admire?
Yeah.
And they write those things down. And then you have them cross off any that they think can't be true about themselves, and then circle the ones that are common between those 5 people.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have them read them off, and that's what they value. That's their core values.
Yeah, it helps to really think about it that way. That's cool.
Yeah. So then you can look at them and say, oh, they really value like hard work, or like, certain things. And you say, how does that fit within our team structure?
Chief candidates do that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's a good way for us to filter them out a little bit if they're not aligned with what we value. But most of the time you get to learn a lot about people too, because you get to ask them like, well, why did you pick those people? Tell us about that. Why do you value hard work? Why do you value this, or whatever it was?
Yeah.
That came up. So that's been helpful too for us.
Yeah. One of the biggest lows I had as a business owner was I actually hired a lot of people in the wrong roles. It didn't really drive the business forward. So like a really profitable business actually became zero profit.
Ooh.
And that was stressful because I didn't know, like, should I let them go? That would be bad because I just brought them in and told them this is a great place for them to grow. Yeah, so I was just curious, have you had any lows you'd be willing to share that you experienced and worked through?
In the hiring process?
In your business career?
Oh, man, there's 100 probably. Yeah. I think, every 2 months I have a low because we're very like cyclical, right? And I'm just.
How so?
Well, like we just had 2 months of just probably break even, maybe lost some money. And it's just, as a business owner, like I think it's going to be just going this way, linear growth all the time. We're never going to have any slow months. It's always going to go up. And so for me, that becomes stressful when I'm like, trying to problem solve, right? Like what's broken? Is it a person problem? Is it a training issue? Is it a marketing issue? What is it? And sometimes I found it's just the market. I look back over, now I have 5, 6, 7 years of data, and I'm like, oh yeah, every year it's like the same thing. So those are definitely some lows. Losing people is always hard. Like even, firing people and that stuff, that's the messy stuff of the business, and it gets stressful. We've had some people that we thought were pretty loyal to us, and they've, gone and left and then signed non-competes, but went and started their own businesses blatantly in front of us. And, it's like, how far do you want, do you want to go run them through the mud, or do you just, but it just hurts. Like you have these relationships and you have this loyalty, and you feel like, hey, we try to coach people and train them and give them education, help them buy their own properties, do all these things, lend them money if they need it for deals. We try to take care of our team like our family. And then when they just kind of turn their back, and that hurts in business. That's probably the lowest of the lows, is when stuff like that happens. But you move on, keep trudging forward, and pretty soon it's all in the past and it's water under the bridge.
For sure. What would be one of your highest highs?
The highest high, probably we did $1 million month once, which for us was a big deal. And part of that, we assigned a apartment complex for about $650,000 assignment fee. That was probably that was probably the highest that was a champagne popping, celebration type of a thing.
Do you normally do apartment complexes?
We did a couple of years ago. It's really cooled off in the last couple of years, like to get some of these leads that are motivated again. And the apartment space has been a lot tougher in the last couple of years.
I thought with high interest rates, it would have been a lot of people needing to sell their apartment complexes.
That's what I was banking on too, especially when those commercial balloons come back up and they got a new interest rate. So we just haven't seen it yet.
Got it. You send direct mail just like you do a single family?
Direct mail, text, cold call. Yeah, all that stuff.
Cool.
Yeah, but we're still slow going there. I think the apartment guys know what they got, and a lot of them are older, and a lot of them don't even have debt on these things. They're just cash flowing, and they don't have a lot of urgency to sell. So,
do you use debt in your rental property portfolio?
I do. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, it allows you to go faster for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, big BRRRR strategy fan. That's my favorite strategy.
Yeah, where you get all your money back. That's what I've focused on with my portfolio. I've got 19 properties.
Yeah, nice.
Gone off market to go get those deals. That's how I started, and then just stumbled upon the ability for an app, right? And first it was driving for dollars, but now it's data. A lot of people come to us for data, consumer side paired with the property side.
Yeah, you guys have done amazing transformation over the year. The years from what I've known you from being in this group with you.
Thank you.
Since back, what was it, 2019, 2020, something like that?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Just in that. And I mean, that's not even that long ago. It was only 5 years ago.
No, I know. It's actually saw CJ Moss here and somebody else, Chris Burrow.
Okay.
And they started wholesaling in 2019.
Okay.
And I was going to Wholesaling Inc.
Yeah.
conferences. And
Yep.
Wholesaling Inc. is how a lot of people started back
That's how I did.
in that period. You did as well?
Yep.
Okay. Didn't realize that. When did you start? Well, 2016, I guess.
Yeah, I joined in Wholesaling Inc. I think in November of 2017.
Okay.
Yep. And then I was at their conference. I think they did one in December maybe or January in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at that one. And
I was at that one too.
Okay.
In like the Gaylord.
Yeah.
Really big place. Yeah.
Got lost in there, I think.
But no, it's cool because when I joined CG,
Yeah.
it was all like really older people.
Yeah.
And then now it's just like, oh, so like excited people are having so much success.
Yeah.
You know, you got to be doing 100 deals a year to be here.
Yeah. Yep.
So congrats again to you for achieving that.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who thinks it's too late to invest in real estate because prices have gone up and you just can't find those good deals?
Dude, I did a whole YouTube podcast video on this thing because first of all, I love ChatGPT because now I can run numbers like super quick on stuff and scenarios. So I did a scenario where I said, hey, let's say you bought a property, David, for $300,000 and you had no equity the day you bought it, right? But you put it on a little 20-year commercial loan, okay, at 7% interest rate, which is about right now, as we're sitting here, you can get commercial loans at about 7%. All right. In 5 years, just say you broke even, you didn't cash flow $1 on it. In 5 years, you have $106,000 of equity in that property with 4% appreciation. Pretty conservative, right? So you got the appreciation.
Because of the appreciation and the pay down.
And you're getting the debt pay down. So what I call like your wealth cone, you start to create this wealth cone over time. And then in 10 years, it was like $20,000 of equity. 15 years, now you're at like $400 and some thousand of equity. So it's just really hard to beat that. When you look at, I don't know. I look around I'm always looking for ways like how can I get better returns, but you can't. That's it. I mean, it's an infinite return when you get your money back, and then you have your tenants paying your debt down. And sure, there's problems with it. There's struggles, but at 7% interest rate, I changed it to 5.9% based off of what Mr. Habib said at the last one, or whatever he told us. The interest rates were going to go down to 5.85 or something like that. And I thought like your equity percentage would be much different. You'd have a lot more equity in 5 years, but it was like $4,000 difference between a 5.85% rate and a 7% rate. So people who are sitting on the sidelines like, oh, I'm going to wait till rates go down. A couple of problems with that is one, you're going to have more competition in the market. Prices are probably going to be higher. 4% is conservative, but if rates go down, you'll probably see an even bigger increase in prices because more people are willing to pay more. And so I just think the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today.
Yeah.
People told me when I got started in 2016, oh, the market is so high. It's overpriced. And now all those people are like, dang, I wish I would have bought 100 properties.
Yeah, I know.
Then, right?
I felt the same way when I was starting in 2016.
Yeah.
Looking back at my boss who had 5 rental properties he bought in 2008,
Yeah.
I thought, oh, how lucky you were able to buy that. But people in my Instagram comments, when I'll do a deal analysis, they'll say, oh, well, you were just lucky because that was way better in 2016. And so it always just happens. It always just looks like rosy through those glasses in the past.
Here's the best thing I think, David, for the audience out there. If you're thinking of getting into real estate investing and you go buy a property today and you overpay for it, it's a bad deal. Like you and I would break it down and be like, dude, that's a bad deal. You overpaid for that. 10 years, we're going to be like, man, you're a genius. Like, wow, how did you get that deal?
Yeah.
Like just time just in real estate helps.
Yeah.
It solves all problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if I could wave a magic wand and create some data that you've been wanting to find, what would that be?
Ooh.
A couple examples. Chad Young, he had noticed he had a lot of lucrative deals that ended up being double lots that he was able to split off. And he asked me, can you find double lots? It's not like a filter.
Okay.
Yeah. But I showed him in his county, searching through the legal description, you could just search for LTS, space LTS. So it's not the end of a word like felt, but like they abbreviated it that way. And then sure enough, in the legal description, you'd see 12 and 13 after it, meaning there's 2 lots. So that's one example.
That's cool.
Somebody else wanted to, they had a whole business, Luke Caraccio up in, down in Arizona. He said they do all agent outreach.
Okay.
And so he has gotten the list of agents by deal flow, but he was like, I'd really like LinkedIn. So I was like, well, I created the agents by listings in the last year in all their LinkedIn profiles, as well as if they own pets, if they own properties, how many.
Wow.
So that was helpful for him. So anything like that, I'm just, we've been growing a lot from data. I want people to know, like, we can help. If it's not in DealMachine, I probably still have access
That's
to
really
to
cool.
get it, and would love to make it available.
Man, I'd say honestly, David, for us in Wisconsin, one of the challenges that we have is our counties. This is what I'm told from data providers.
Yep.
They're sloppy with how they do stuff, and
Mhm.
so like we'll get a data set and we'll say, hey, we don't want land, for example, for a certain mailing piece or a certain,
Mhm.
whatever, and inevitably there's a lot of land in it, right? Or we'll say, hey, we really want multifamily, 5 unit to 10 unit, right? They don't report that in our counties.
The unit count.
The unit count.
Got it.
So like we can get like
What county are you looking in specifically?
We have Brown, Outagamie, Winnebago. Those are the three main ones.
And those are around which city?
Green Bay,
Oh, okay.
Appleton,
Yeah.
Oshkosh, and then we're starting to get into the Milwaukee market and stuff
Mhm.
like that too. So Milwaukee County and some of the ones surrounding that.
So it's just isolating land or just isolating unit count?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just-
Anything else?
Those are the main things I can think of off the top of my head right now. I mean, obviously, more data is always
Cool.
always better. We can
Yeah,
always
I'll take a look.
yeah, it'd be awesome, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Well, as we wrap up, like, what are you looking forward to most this year?
Man, I'm looking to just last year. We had a lot of turmoil at the start of the year, and I stepped back in and took the reins a little bit and kind of corrected the ship. And so this year, I'm just looking to build off of that, man. I'm excited to see what our team can do. I'm excited to delegate more responsibility to people on our team and see myself be able to step back into creating and like, hey, what else can I create? What else can I bolt on to our business to help, help the cash flow, help our team, help us grow, and take what do we do in wholesaling and how do I apply that vertically maybe in some other categories.
You mean like in trades or in lending, or what do you mean?
Possibly some lending.
Mhm.
Yeah, possibly some lending, possibly looking into some title. How do we get a
Mhm.
piece of every deal we do with the title companies?
Mhm.
Things like that. Like how do I bolt on some things that we're already doing and just maximize every deal that we're getting in the door?
I heard a couple people mention interest in trades.
Okay.
I mean, because if you're doing construction with your bird deals,
Yeah,
you see how much they're making.
for sure.
I think a lot of people, like, they went off to college, they didn't get involved in trades, so there's like a shortage of people
For
doing
sure.
those jobs.
100%.
So it could even be a good business,
That's a
to
great
be
idea.
able to provide that for your own
Yeah.
construction and others.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
I've heard also that I think it's called Key. So it's like turnkey. You provide turnkey to your cash buyers,
Yes.
but you can also then come back behind, provide construction.
Okay.
So I know there's a few. My podcast co-host Ryan Haywood, he was selling properties in St. Joe. He found buyers, but then he was bothered that they weren't fixing up the houses, and it was because they couldn't find contractors. So
Okay.
he then started turning right around and providing a bid. So he started a construction company. Then we talked with Brian Higgins in Oklahoma,
Yeah.
he's got 360 rentals.
Okay.
No, I believe that was him. Maybe I'm off on that, but he definitely has 360 rentals. So I think it was him that also does the Key method for
Okay.
their wholesaling, right? So they'll do the wholesale. They'll say you could use this for construction or not, but it's like a thing and it has a name.
Okay.
And that's kind of like a vertical integration.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We're looking at doing that, maybe partner with our property management company
Mhm.
that does a lot of our stuff. They have a lot of the relationships already, the
Yeah.
contractors and all that stuff. So how do we promote that? That's another one that we're looking at is like, how do we bring more out of state people to Wisconsin? We're kind of off the map for like California investors and, Colorado investors in the higher price markets. Like,
Mhm.
but I'm obviously very bullish on Wisconsin. So how do I get more of those people?
Yeah, it's a good cash flow market
For
where
sure.
they can't get the cash flow in California.
Right. I hear, I was just talking to guys at CG, like, oh, Burr is dead. You can't Burr deals. I'm like,
That's impossible. I did some.
I'm like, we burr them all the time.
Yeah.
It might not be as big of a spreads anymore. It might be a little bit tighter of a burr, but
Yeah.
it's still definitely very doable. So,
Agreed.
yeah. So we're looking at doing that.
Well, thanks. I'll follow up with the data. Really appreciate
Awesome.
your time and sharing your story.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate
Glad
being
you're
on.
able to spend more time with your family now.
Yeah, me too.
A lot of time.
Yeah.
And 2 houses in Florida.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome.
Super
Dave.
inspiring, man. Thank
Awesome,
you.
brother. Appreciate you, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh, before you stop it, Chris, did you have any questions?
Well, actually, I want to clarify. You said you stopped doing the rentals and then you found a wholesale deal 4 days later.
Yeah.
How'd you find one so fast?
Well, we had the marketing going, right? So I had this lead. At the same time I was working the lead for the rental property. So like we closed we closed on the rental property on December 30th, but we had been working it for a couple weeks, prior to that, had under contract. So like we closed on that one, and then like 5 days later, that wholesale deal closed.
And back in the early days, you were doing direct to seller marketing for rentals, right?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
then why did you decide to wholesale this one? Just money was tied up from the first rental you bought?
No, it was just a 1-bedroom, and I didn't want it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes
So
sense.
yeah, I was like, hey, I don't want this thing. I know somebody who does. Let's see if I can pair the two and make some money. Yeah.
Okay. And then, do you know who Dave Ramsay is?
Yeah.
If David was Dave Ramsay,
Yeah.
how would you tell Dave Ramsay that debt is good?
That's a great question. How would I tell Dave Ramsay that debt is good? Well, I think it's a deeper conversation, right? Like, what are your goals? I mean, if your goal is to be completely debt free and not, and grow slow and methodical and that sort of stuff, like, sure, it's just a slow burn, man. And I think yes, it's safe, but rarely does anybody get very far in life just playing the safe game, right? I mean, sure, you can. Again, depends on your goals. If you just want a couple $1,000 a month of cash flow and you want to do that, great. You can pay off your properties and do it that way. But if you want to grow anything and build real wealth, I don't know anybody who didn't get a briefcase full of cash and went out and built anything of real significance without using leverage, right?
Yeah.
So it's up to everybody's goals. But like we just discussed on that example, in 5 years, somebody can create $100,000 of real wealth from leveraging debt, where you can't do that with cash. Cash on cash return in rental properties is pretty low if you're paying full cash for these things. You might get a 6 or 7% return.
Because of inflation, or
no, it's just
was it depreciation?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
I got excited to answer.
You
go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say, you got expenses, you got management, you've got, what you're left over with. If you ask somebody, a lot of times you ask these old people that we deal with that have these properties free and clear, they're like, this thing cash flows great. And then you find out like how much they pay in property tax, how much they pay, how much they had to fix all this stuff for, that their tenant broke, all that stuff, right? And then if they had to hire management, a lot of these guys are self-managing. What are they actually left with at the end of the day? It's like $2,400 a year on a $100,000 property, right? So, I mean, they're really making 2.4%. Or if they leverage that, right, and let's say they broke even, but now they have no money in the deal. Let's say they made $1 a year. Now they're making an infinite return on that property. Plus the tenant is now paying that debt down for them, creating wealth, right?
Yeah.
So
okay,
that's my theory on it. But
not true.
Yeah, it's a controversial topic, and I love it. And Dave, God bless his heart, I think he's right on the consumer debt side of things, like cars, boats, that kind of stuff for sure. But when it comes to properties, from what I've heard, dude got a big old briefcase full of cash from his daddy.
No way.
That's how he got into, a lot of the stuff he has. So
are you calling him out?
I'll call him out. Yeah, I'd love to have that conversation with Dave, man. I would love to. I'm not scared of Dave. It's just two totally different, two totally different mindsets. But I bet if you sat him down without a camera in front of him, I bet he would be more so on the side of leverage. If somebody's goal was to build wealth, again, it's all based off of somebody's goals.
All right. I would say the reason why you get more cash on cash return on your rental properties when you finance it is because, let's say you have a $100,000 property and it rents for $1,000 a month. That would be $12,000 a year. Half of that goes to management and repairs, so that's $6,000 divided by $100,000. That's 6% cash on cash return. Let's say you finance it. You put $25,000 down instead of $100,000 down. You now have a mortgage payment, so that is going to cut into the $6,000, but half, right? Half of that will now go to the mortgage payment. So instead of collecting $6,000 a year, you collect $3,600 per year. But $3,600 divided by 25% is 14% cash on cash return compared to the 6% cash on cash return for the fully paid off rental. So when you're looking at how your cash is being deployed, you could triple your cash on cash return using debt.
Okay.
And then if a property doubles in value every 10 years, if all you had was $100,000, you would only be exposed to the $100,000 property value doubling. So you could be turning that into $200,000 of appreciation. But if you're using debt, you can buy $400,000 properties. So now you're exposed at $400 doubling. You could make $400,000 of appreciation in the same amount of time using the same amount of cash if you use debt.
Yep.
So that's why debt is very powerful.
And it's even more powerful when you have no money into the deal because you pulled all your cash back out doing the burst strategy. And now you
Then
can
that's
take
like
that same
infinite cash on cash return. If you've done the burst strategy, you get your down payment out.
Correct.
Money glitch.
And then you take that $100,000 that you just pulled back out and you go buy 4 more. And then you take that money you pulled back out, you go buy 4 more. You take that money out, you go buy 4 more. And you just keep rinsing and repeating with the same $100,000. You just recycle the same money.
Yeah.
Over and over and over again.
Recycle money.
Recycle money, man.
Any more questions? That was good.
Would you say you have a green thumb if you recycle money?
I don't know. I guess maybe. Yeah.
Okay, that's it now.
Okay.
Awesome, dude. That was great. Thanks for asking
great question.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you, brother.
much, man.
Yeah.
Super-
Thanks for listening to the Deal Machine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.